Hello and welcome to World Stories, your international reporters magazine. I'm Sumi Somaskanda. Coming up on this week's edition, we honor an author who brought children's stories to life. We find out why tourists are flocking to the city of mice, and Mozart meets metal. That and more coming up. But first, every year millions of plastic bags and bottles end up in waterways, garbage dumps, and on land. And that has created a global pollution problem. Not to mention the energy consumed in making all that plastic. There are several initiatives across the world that are working to address that problem by finding ways to recycle all sorts of plastics. But can you simply reuse plastic waste once it's been contaminated? In our next story, we travel to Ghana, where bottles are often put back into the rotation without ever getting a proper cleaning. And as Ghana's Metro TV reporter Hamdia Amadu Yakubu tells us, that can create a serious health hazard.
The issue about recycling plastic waste has become essential in this era when everything is packed in polythene and plastic. This will aid in ridding the environment of waste that choke our system. Yet I have a concern. Where do these plastics and polythenes meant for recycling come from? What processes are employed to recycle these materials? I'm sure you too have questions. Let's get some answers.
Plastics and polythenes have been used extensively in packaging because of their inherent properties, such as low bulk densities and inertness that make them convenient carrier materials and low-risk contaminants. However, the packaging revolution has not been correspondingly backed by appropriate plastic waste management policy, which has left many cities in Ghana littered with plastic waste, thus creating disgusting visual nuisance and other public health problems, including flooding after every downpour. The idea of collecting used bottles and polythene bags for other purposes was therefore conceived. This idea is not bad in itself, yet where these materials are gathered from leave much to be desired. A walk around town reveals branded bottles refilled with everything from local food drinks, cooking oil, herbal medicine to kerosene. The obvious question is, where do these bottles come from?
I got it on the floor.
The plastics come from factories. I know a man who collects them and I can buy some for a fee.
But not all users of these bottles have ample time to go round and pick them. The other group of people buy the bottles from middlemen, otherwise known as Koliba or Abuchi, who collect and wash them for onward sale.
I buy them in Nima from people who deal in plastic bottles. They say they get them from the airport.
Our investigations reveal that some of these bottles are collected from the floor, dustbins, corporate institutions, hospitals, gutters, and refuse dumps.
You see them with metal rods, and then they are scavenging through the refuse just to pick out these bottles. They will tell you we clean them. But how sure are we in their clean operations?
So are you now considering where the bottles used to package your favorite lamujin, sobolo, pito, or ice kenke come from?
I see them collecting bottles, so I think they buy.
You see people picking this thing from the gutter. That's no good. I think they should go to the industry and buy new ones.
Most collectors were very hostile to the news team and refused to speak on camera, but admitted that because most bottles come in very dirty, they wash them before selling them out.
Selling the bottles provides money for food. That prevents you stealing from others, which could land you in jail. That's why we do it.
These are some bowls of water used for the cleaning process. How clean can a dirty bottle be if it is washed in this solution? Most consumable and non-consumable products are put in these bottles for sale, but there is more concern about the consumable products because of the implications.
I'm not sure about the bottle because the bottle, they don't manufacture the bottle. It's from Voltic. Somebody used it for water before they use it. That's why I'm using the straw.
I use hot water to wash the bottles. I buy detergent and add hot water to it. That's what I use to wash the bottle in addition to a sponge.
But this fruit drink vendor says he will not settle for anything less than virgin bottles, which come at a cost. Most local drink sellers are also ignorant of the processes the bottles go through before they get to them.
When it comes to where I usually buy from, if I realize there is dirt there, I won't buy from them, because people don't always realize if they've eaten something they shouldn't.
The Food and Drugs Board is equally worried about the situation.
And if we realize that, yes, we have enough data to show that the public is at risk if we allow these things to continue, already we are suspecting that risk is there, and then we are advising against the use of these bottles for the packaging of, especially when somebody has drunk from these bottles.
The FDB says scientifically it is inappropriate to reuse these bottles for refilling.
So long as it's a chemical product and a repeated use and then the leaching could release some level of monomers used in producing this particular material into the food. So as you use over a period of time, then you get exposed to these monomers, which we think that over a period of time can have some health implications on the consumer.
The recycled bottles cost 20 pesos for 5 pieces, while the virgin bottles cost 18 pesos each.
It is important that institutions of state, i.e. the Food and Drugs Board, the local government, environmental health officers, devise a means of addressing this problem once and for all, and then probably legislate that people cannot use recycled PET bottles for this sort of operations.
The Food and Drugs Board says it will be difficult to regulate the situation as it stands, yet we can work together towards one common goal.
When you drink these bottles, do not make them available for any other person to use. If you need to puncture it, then puncture it so that nobody can get to use them again, because of the possibility of improper cleaning that can result in the product becoming contaminated eventually.
But could this be the panacea to this problem?
Would you let this bottle anywhere close to your mouth if you knew the source? Since it's difficult to ascertain where these bottles come from, please take my advice. Watch what is used to package what you consume, so you don't use your hard-earned money to buy cocktail of diseases. For this edition of The Issues, Hamdi Amadou Yakub reporting.
Thanks to Metro TV for that story. Now to Mexico for a unique twist on rock music. Imagine the sweet sounds of Mozart paired with the dark melodies of black metal music. It's an unusual mix, and one that the Mexican band Exacrovicordia has perfected. They call it symphonic goth metal. Mexico's Canal 22 reporter Victor Gaspar explains how the band developed its unconventional sound.
The band formed in 1999. Our aim was to fuse classical music with rock music and include their unique influences.
We decided to call it Exacrovicordia. It's Latin and means damned dementia.
For Exacrovicordia, dementia is a creative symbol. It can emanate from a simple dream, one of these strange dreams you sometimes have.
We wanted to create a kind of symphonic metal. But our first fans actually came from the Gothic dark scene in Mexico.
Even though we don't want to limit ourselves to a particular style or audience, we know who our main fans are.
Apart from the musical aspect, which we're very serious about in metal, we try to do something exceptional on stage. We use different characters. Everyone represents a certain creature of a particular era in the history of humanity. Each member adds their own story to our band's mix.
Muy distinta que quiere representar en la banda. Todos estudiamos en escuelas.
We all study music, but we aren't just influenced by classical music. You can hear rock music, contemporary music, trova music. It all makes up part of our sound.
A la hora de hacer nuestra música, ser el resultado sonoro que hacemos nosotros.
The advantage of studying music is that we can all use the same language when talking about music. In that sense, we're different from a normal band. We use scores, so every band member can bring a written piece along, and we rehearse it until we come up with the final version.
Dentro de esta escena underground, pues también hay pros y hay
The underground scene has pros and cons. One advantage is that people try to remember the name of the band to be able to find and buy the record later and to keep up with the shows.
Buscar el disco, comprarlo, estar al tanto de las tocadas.
A disadvantage is the lack of locations in the metal scene.
Las cosas malas se podría decir que tiene la escena es que hay pocos espacios.
Hay veces que nos ha tocado alternar.
We've already gone on stage with bands that had almost no connection with Gothic or metal. We've played shows with ska or pop bands. And generally the reception was very good. I don't think we were ever booed off stage. No, I don't think so.
No, creo que nunca lo han hecho.
That's music to our ears. Now to an ancient region that's been shaped by a rich mix of cultures and traditions over several centuries. The Jordan Rift Valley is a vast depression of fertile land that sweeps from the Sea of Galilee all the way to the Red Sea. But the valley is also a source of strife between Israelis and Palestinians, who both claim the land as their own. In our next story, reporter Haroun Amaira from PBC shows us how a group of Palestinians is addressing the conflict by using the rift as a place to gather and reconnect with their customs and traditions and with the valley itself.
Al Ghor, or the Jordan Rift Valley, has long been dominated by conflict. Both Israelis and Palestinians claim ownership of the land. A group of Palestinians travel here regularly and set up camp for a few days. Participants say the journey helps renew their connection to the land. The campers feel drawn to the land and believe that their presence helps defend their claim to the territory. But the sojourns aren't only motivated by political conflict. The campers also want to celebrate their cultural heritage by sipping on Arabic coffee and tea and preparing traditional Palestinian food.
Welcome. We've invited you to come here and learn about this area. This is the land of our ancestors. Once a week we come here and set up camp so that the Israeli settlers understand that this is where our cultural roots lie. Otherwise, this land would have been lost long ago. But we will never leave.
They often sit up until the early morning hours. Some play music, others tell stories and jokes.
يا بابا حي الغر ايوه وبحيي فلسطين ومن سكنها وبحيي جميع وجوه الطيار
These villagers have just arrived from the region near Ramallah, but it's not their first trip to the valley. The area's rugged beauty keeps bringing them back. The scenery also attracts Palestinians living abroad. They return to experience the beautiful landscapes of their ancestral origins.
I always take a vacation and come here at this time of year. I've been here for 12 days now. Every day I admire the scenery. It's so unique. I live in Puerto Rico, a place everyone would like to see. But I wouldn't miss a single day here. We bring our children as well, so that they can get to know their home country better.
The campers aren't afraid of roughing it, and many of them choose to sleep under the stars. As soon as dawn has broken, the men get to work preparing a traditional Palestinian meal: olives, eggs, cheese, olive oil, and thyme, and traditional Palestinian bread. The people here feel a deep connection to Al-Khor. They continue to hope for a state that will guarantee them access to the land here. Another story of the importance of land to the Palestinians and a new form of protest in a conflict that has been dominated by fear, death, and battles over land. Harun Amaria, reporting from Western Al-Khor, Palestina TV.
Thanks to Harun and PBC for that report. Now to the magic of words. They're not just letters on a page. Words can sing and dance and evoke powerful emotions. They can give shape to the writer's wildest dreams. In our next story, we celebrate an author from New Zealand who had a special way with words. Margaret Mahy dedicated her life to writing books for children and young adults, using her imagination to teach them important life lessons. CTV reporter Samantha Early brings us more.
Do you know about the word witch? Has she cast her spell over you? She can lasso with a limerick, haunt with a haiku, and wrap you in a rhyme tight as quick as lightning.
The description read at the memorial service for renowned children's author Margaret Mahy, who until her death at age 76 lived here in Governor's Bay.
Margaret would never tire of this natural landscape. From the windows of her home, views down the harbour towards Littleton and the Heads, soft mists, calm green winter seas, white tops of a summer easterly, and the perfection of clear blue spring or summer skies.
It was in this small harbour settlement near the city of Christchurch that she did her writing and raised her two daughters, Penny and Bridget.
As she said, she had too many books to shift, so she just stayed as the book collection grew.
It's a wonderfully peaceful place to be if you're a writer, and not very many people live here, many more than did 40 years ago when Margaret first came, but it just enables you to have a bit of both worlds, really.
Margaret Mahy worked as a children's librarian to support her family. For years she found it a struggle to have books published commercially, but in the late 1960s her stories were discovered by an American editor. Her first book, A Lion in the Meadow, was published in 1969.
The Lion in the Meadow by Margaret Mahy. The little boy said, "Mother, there is a lion in the meadow." The mother said, "Nonsense, little boy." The little boy said, "Mother, there is a big yellow lion in the meadow." The mother said, "Nonsense, little boy." The little boy said, "Mother, there is a big, roaring, yellow, whiskery lion in the meadow."
As her career grew to include junior fiction and young adults novels, so did her list of literary accolades, including the Carnegie Medal and in 2006 the prestigious Hans Christian Andersen Award.
She was an unutterably magical, wonderful woman with a magical imagination that has had children and their parents chuckling in many different languages, if you can chuckle in different languages.
15 different languages, over a career which spanned more than 40 years. Her playfulness and imagination resonating with readers.
The magical would be mixed up with the domestic, and people loved the way that was written about.
She recognised early that she best liked tales about people in states of extremity, facing death and danger, but in the process of escaping with courage and good luck, able to transcend themselves.
Though her fame is worldwide, those closest to her loved her for simply being herself.
As a child, I remember feeling that she danced through life, laughing loud and singing with unmatched enthusiasm, which was something that could cause embarrassment, as she often broke out in a can-can in the school car park. Yeah, a bit of high stepping.
She weaves words into adventures, sets verses dancing wildly, makes similes sing and stamp their feet, and poems purr like pussycats who've eaten all the cream. Her name is Margaret Mahy. These are her spells. Dance with the universe, Margaret, my dear friend, my true friend.
Children's literature is all the richer thanks to Margaret Mahy. Now for our final story of the day, we head to an enchanting little town in western Russia called Myshkin. It might be small and quaint, but Myshkin has become a big hit with tourists. There aren't any famous historical sites or monuments there. Instead, this town has made a name for itself thanks to a legend and a museum, all dedicated to a friendly little rodent. RT's Raed Kishkia explains.
Along the Volga River lies the town of Myshkin, the city of mice. The village gets its name from the legend of a traveling nobleman. As he was dozing, a mouse woke him up just in time to save the prince from an approaching snake. He built a church in honor of his little guardian and laid the foundation for Myshkin.
Other cities are famous for their archaeological sites and churches. But today, everyone is embracing our little mice. Everyone is really pitching in, and these are people who really love their city. The people have lots of names for the mice. Mishkinci, Mushkarki, Mushkarsky. Like I was saying, tourism employs over 700 people in the area, so it's a big business here.
Myshkin only has 6,000 residents, but more and more hotels are opening up, and workers from neighboring cities are flocking here to cater to the growing number of tourists. Over 160,000 last year. It all started with a mouse museum, the only one of its kind. Today, the town displays more than 30 tourist attractions.
We opened our doors in 2006 in the Chinese Year of the Mouse, and we wanted to give this museum to our mice as a gift. We have a particular kind of mouse here in Myshkin, the purse mouse. A woman from our town invented it. She told tourists to keep it in their wallets. Later on, the tourists who had become rich would buy large numbers of these mice.
Myshkin only has one primary school, a hospital, and a well. But despite its size, it still supports a college and 3 banks. Authentic 19th century architecture and a rural lifestyle make the town into a delightful living museum. This pretty and cozy town is a rare jewel here in the countryside. Its great hospitality and charm make for an unforgettable experience.
And that's all for this week's edition of World Stories. For all of our contributing stations around the world, we want to thank you for watching. Remember, you can watch this show again at our website, dw.de/World Stories. Before we go, we leave you with this week's Picks of the World. See you next time.